And here it is, guys. Welcome to my final 2024 NFL mock draft. I made one just a month and a half ago. I want to say I am very happy with how that turned out, but there are a couple changes that I did make to that mock draft that I want to go over here because my thoughts on how it's going to play out have changed a little bit with some of the rumors that came out, with some of the pro days that occurred. So I want to go over some of the changes that I have from that original mock draft. Now, I do want to say I did use my original mock draft as a skeleton for this one, okay? Because I'm not gonna fake some type of change like, oh yeah, in this mock draft I'm gonna have Washington drafting Drake May. Like, no, I'm not doing that. The way I see it, if I think Jayden Daniels is going to be a Washington Commander, I'm going to keep him as a Washington Commander until I see something that makes me want to believe otherwise. And at the moment, there are some things that I kept the same with this mock draft and other things that I didn't. Towards the end, that mock draft that I put out a month and a half ago looks very different from this one, but the first couple of picks, like the first overall pick, remain exactly the same. I have Caleb Williams going number one overall. Everyone does. It's kind of unanimous at this point, and I have changed my mind recently. I now think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the draft class. I know a lot of people unanimously agreed upon that, but I'm still, even now that I changed my opinion on where he ranks among the quarterbacks of this class, I still do have my questions about Caleb and his ability to play in structure, but the upside is tremendous. Okay, there is no doubt about it. He has elite generational upside. I don't think he's this overly safe prospect that's really worth a first overall pick, if I'm being honest, but he's a quarterback. The Bears need a quarterback, and he's the best QB in the draft class. He's going to be the pick. There's not really much else to talk about here. And then the second pick, I still think it's going to be Jayden Daniels, right? Washington brought in Marcus Mariota. That shows you the type of quarterback they want, okay? You don't bring in Marcus Mariota if he isn't a scheme fit. And between Jayden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy, Jayden Daniels is the closest to Marcus Mariota, okay? Now, this isn't 100% definite, but every source on earth has pretty much been saying Jayden Daniels is going to be a Washington Commander. The only thing that raises a little bit of suspicion here is some rumors about Jayden Daniels not wanting to play in Washington, but it's not Jayden Daniels picking where he wants to go. It's Washington choosing their player that they want, and I still think it's Jayden Daniels. I think he's a scheme fit in the Cliff Kingsbury type of offense. So yeah, this is a pick I talked about in the last mock. I'm not going to go too in-depth with it because I mean, a lot of people are agreeing on this one. And just like in the last mock draft, I have this trade going on. The Patriots are a team that needs draft capital. They have a lot of weaknesses on that team. If they want to fix those weaknesses, they're not going to do it all by drafting a quarterback third overall or drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. third overall or drafting Malik Neighbors or whoever. Okay? If they really want to start trending in the right direction, they can't just throw a rookie quarterback into this awful situation. They need to build the stable structure around the quarterback before bringing the quarterback in. Because if they draft a quarterback, that quarterback is going to get crucified. All right. So they decide to trade back. The Vikings are a team that has made it very clear they want to trade up and take a quarterback. They're not going into the season with Sam Darnold starting. Okay, we know that. They're going to trade up to third overall. Why are they going to trade up to third overall? Well, because they really like Drake May. Okay, I think that they really like Drake May. J.J. McCarthy's absolutely in play here. Do I agree with that? We'll talk about that when we get to J.J. McCarthy. But Drake May is a quarterback who has tremendous upside. He has some familiarity with that coaching staff. The coaching staff is familiar with him. If they choose to go with J.J. McCarthy over Drake May, I think that says a lot about Drake May. Okay, the fact that there are coaches on that staff that are familiar with him and they're willing to pass up on him for a J.J. McCarthy, I think that says a lot about how this guy from UNC really is. Tremendous upside. You have to really fix some of the misses and some of just the inconsistencies in his game. But if you do that, you have an elite quarterback, okay? So he's a project, but it could definitely pay off. I think the Vikings are very interested to see if they can make it pay off. Fourth overall, same as last time. Once again, all 4 picks have been exactly the same as last time. Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals. I mean, they need a receiver. That receiver core is ridiculously weak. And I think bringing in Marvin Harrison to play with Kyler Murray, if Kyler Murray can stay healthy, oh boy, I'm excited to see what happens. I really am. It should be a really, really fun situation. There is some talk about teams liking Malik Nabers more than Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't really get it. I like Malik Nabers too, but Marvin Harrison, man, he's one of one. He is one of one. He is so complete. The combination of size, speed, athleticism, contested catching ability, he checks every box. He does. And it's just phenomenal to me how well refined this guy's game is while also having a ridiculously high ceiling because of how athletic he is. He's a stud. He's an absolute stud. And now this is where I have a big change happening, right? Rome Odunze, I have going to the Chargers instead of Malik Nabers. This is the big change from the last mock that we did. Why do I have Rome Odunze going 5 instead of Malik Nabers? Well, the reason why is because think about who's running that team. Think about who Jim Harbaugh is. Okay? Jim Harbaugh, he's a big character guy. He cares a lot about how these players are in the locker room. And the fact is, although I think Malik Nabers is better, and it seems like a lot of people agree with that statement, they're both ridiculously good wide receivers. Stylistically, they are very different, but in terms of the caliber of them as players, they are both ridiculously high caliber. But Odunze is a better locker room guy. Okay, we've heard some rumors about Malik Nabers not really being this guy who says all the right stuff. But then you look at the players that Jim Harbaugh has coached throughout his entire career. They were all guys that said the right thing, did the right thing. Now we're hearing so much about J.J. McCarthy pretty much building an entire case for being a top 10 pick on his personality. Okay? And you could say that about really everyone on Michigan. They don't bring in toxic players. Jim Harbaugh is a culture guy. He isn't going to bring in someone like Malik Nabers that might be a little bit more me, while someone like Odunze is team first. Okay, I don't think he's going to make that type of decision. Speaking of J.J. McCarthy, we have him going number 6 overall to the New York Giants. This is, once again, similar to what I had happening last time. McCarthy, I don't think is a smart pick here. But if I'm Daboll, if I'm Shane, I know that bringing in McCarthy kind of resets the clock. Because now with a young quarterback, with a quarterback you just drafted, you are able to say to John Mara and that group of owners, you're able to say, yeah, you can't fire me. If you fire me, you have to look for someone that likes J.J. McCarthy. I just brought in a rookie quarterback. Let me see what I could do with him. Okay, so let's say he has a bad year this year. He's able to keep his job just because he brought in a young quarterback. Meanwhile, if he brought in a young offensive tackle, a Joe Alt, or a young wide receiver, maybe Malik Nabers if he is here like I expect him to be, they would still easily be able to move on from him. But because it's a QB, that guarantees Daboll and Shane their time. It does. Now, does J.J. McCarthy start right off the bat? I don't know, but I also think he's someone that needs some time on the bench. McCarthy kind of gets this rep as like this game-managing quarterback that, he won't turn the ball over. He'll make the right decisions, and I completely disagree. He's someone that has some idiotic decisions at times. He has that gunslinger mentality that you see from like a Eli Manning, someone the Giants are familiar with. J.J. McCarthy, my comparison for him was Andy Dalton. But there's definitely gripes that I have with this guy. Personality is probably great. The leadership is probably great. And I know that that's important. Still, though, I don't think the film is that of a top 10 pick. I really don't. I really do not. But apparently all these NFL teams think differently, and I think the Giants are one of those teams that think differently. I do. They're able to experiment, keeping Jones on the field, and if he performs poorly, then they put McCarthy out there, but they don't have to put McCarthy out there right away if they don't want to. They could develop him on the bench if they choose to. Like, they have options if they bring in McCarthy, but they need a receiver, and if Malik Neighbors there, it would be a huge mistake for them to do this, but the Giants are going to giant, right? This pick, it feels inevitable, right? The Titans have to take Joe Alt. If he's there, it feels like it's 100% going to happen. Their offensive line is weak, man. It's weak. And Joe Alt is a great prospect. I don't think there's a chance this guy will bust. I really don't. My only problem with him is sometimes because he's so tall, he's easy to get your hands under. He's easy to win the leverage battle against, and that's my main gripe with him. But besides that, this guy, his mobility is spectacular. The strength is unreal. I mean, he's a great, well-refined, high-caliber, pro-ready offensive tackle. The Titans want someone like that to really be a landmark on their offensive line. Very simple there, and this one is just as simple. I feel like pick 7 and 8 are pretty much unanimous. The only thing that would change is maybe a trade happening and these players going before these picks. But if these players are here, Dallas Turner is going to be the 8th overall pick. Joe Alt is going to be the 7th overall pick. Very simple. Dallas Turner is definitely scheme fit on the Falcons defense, okay? He's someone who can spot drop if you need him to, but he could also get to the quarterback, and that's why they're bringing him in here, right? He's a freak athlete, remarkably high ceiling, and I do think his floor isn't as low as some people might think it is, just because if he's really that bad of an edge rusher, you put him at inside linebacker, and he's great, and the Falcons can definitely do that. It's not like they're overly strong at inside linebacker. So, yeah, I think this is kind of a no-brainer pick. And this right here is where I have Malik Neighbors going, right? He definitely fell far on this draft. He definitely did. A lot of people have him going 5, okay? Malik Neighbors, in most mocks, isn't going to fall this far. But if he does, I think the Bears are very interested in drafting Malik Neighbors. I truly do. However, it's unlikely he falls here. If he does, though, Neighbors is going to be the pick. They probably want to go with the Brock Bowers if Neighbors isn't here. But in the situation where Neighbors is on the board, they're looking for a slot receiver. That would be kind of the role that Bowers would play for them. And also he'll be an asset in the 12 personnel looks that we know Shane Waldron loves. But Neighbors is going to be the slot receiver for the team if he's there. And that wide receiver trio, it's going to be really easy for Caleb Williams to be successful. I mean, kind of a no-brainer here, right? They're in a position where they get to pick the best wide receiver available or the best edge rusher available. And Malik Neighbors is the best player available in terms of someone who plays one of those two positions in the Bears' mind. I think a lot of people will agree on that statement. Malik Neighbors as a slot receiver, as the third option on your team, I mean, yeah, that's going to be a dynamic offense if they get to pull this off. Now I have a trade with the 10th overall pick. I have the Jets trading it away to the Denver Broncos, who I expect to be in a bidding war with the Raiders for this pick. The Broncos want to get their quarterback. The Raiders want to get their quarterback. I think that they both like the same guy. So they're going to have to outbid each other. And we heard Sean Payton say that he would allow some wild stuff to go down in Denver in terms of the education of kids. I'm not sure if people heard about this. Sean Payton straight up said he's fine with every kid in Colorado losing their education if it means the Broncos could get their quarterback. I don't know why that's his specific example, but the point is the Broncos are very, very willing to give stuff up in order to get their guy. And we know they've been trying to shop Courtland Sutton. Here's an opportunity to do it, okay? Is giving up your wide receiver 1 in order to get just a 3-pick move up a very steep price? Absolutely. Absolutely. But Sean Payton thinks he's going to get his quarterback here. He thinks Bo Nix is going to be his quarterback. He knows he has to outbid the Raiders. I expect Bo Nix to be the pick here. I think it'll work really well. The Jets want to trade back. Here's an opportunity to do it. I mean, man, it should be great to really watch that happen. It should be great. I think Nix is a great fit in the Sean Payton offense. I do. I do think this is rich for him, but Sean Payton wants his quarterback, like I said. I could absolutely see this occurring. I absolutely think that it's a smart play for Sean Payton. He needs his quarterback if he wants to be successful. He has to be successful because the Broncos thought their Super Bowl window opened. That's why they traded for Russ. And now they kind of need to either take the season as a complete rebuild or do what they're doing right here and stock up on young guys and hope for a season like the Texans had last year, led by a supposedly great head coach. He hasn't been great with Denver yet, but here's an opportunity for him to change it with his quarterback. Then the 11th pick. Don't forget the Patriots got this from the Vikings in a trade. We have the Patriots drafting Olu Fashanu. This is great value. I love Olu, and getting him at 11 overall, I absolutely love. Phenomenal pass protector. Someone that's going to be able to protect your franchise quarterback when you do decide to eventually draft him in the future. I think that they're going to stick with Brissett for this year, though. He's someone you could really build an offense knowing he won't be a liability for you. He'll be a consistent, great player for you. That's a very comforting feeling to have as a new coaching staff, to know you have a strong blindside protector. I mean, we know how much sacks can kill drives. Having someone like Olu that's this great in pass protection, it makes you really comfortable as a new coaching staff, as a young coaching staff. It makes you really comfortable. They have at least something you could rely on, something that you know is a strong unit going forward with this football team. The Jets also want their tackle, though. And yeah, they do have two older guys that they brought in during the offseason in Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. However, both those guys can absolutely get hurt. Tyron Smith, especially, he has an injury history. Both those guys should be gone after 1 year. J.C. Latham could replace them in the future. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, he steps in this year if one of those guys go down. Okay? And he should do a great job. J.C. Latham is a decently pro-ready guy. He's someone who has upside, too. I really like him. I imagine the Jets like him. The Jets just don't want Rodgers getting hurt. You cannot rely on Tyron Smith to be your blindside protector for a full season just because he can't stay healthy. Drafting J.C. Latham with the 12th overall pick is a great way for them to go about that. So I would absolutely love for them to go ahead and do this, especially after bringing in Courtland Sutton. So far right now, it looks like they're pretty much winning the draft. I mean, great job by the Jets so far. The Raiders, this is a pick similar to last time. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver at LSU. They want a big body possession type of receiver. They don't have that there. They have a nice receiving core, but they are missing that big body that could just win contested catches. Brian Thomas could fill that role for them. Very simple. And the Saints, this is also the same as last time. Brock Bowers is a phenomenal receiver. Derek Carr isn't overly great. And if you want that offense to be competitive with Derek Carr taking snaps, you can't just have Chris Olave. Okay, you got to have more game-breaking talent, and Brock Bowers can be a game-breaker for you. Dennis Allen needs to win now. Brock Bowers can potentially, if he's really as good as we all think he is, he can potentially allow them to win right now. 15th overall pick. Last time I had it being Quinyon Mitchell because Quinyon Mitchell was a great athlete. The Colts love to bring in athletes. Okay, we saw that in last year's draft class. But now Cooper DeJean had his pro day, and he proved he's an even better athlete. Okay, he did. And I think DeJean in the Gus Bradley scheme will be very similar to Cam Chancellor in the Gus Bradley scheme. It should be really fun to watch. Versatile weapon who could do stuff in the slot, who could do stuff as a box safety. He could do stuff all over the place, right? He's a truly spectacular, versatile defensive back who could play safety, could play corner. I don't really trust him in man much, but Gus Bradley doesn't run man, so you really don't care. Okay, DeJean is a great fit on that Colts defense, and I think the Colts love him because of the type of athlete that he is. They love the relative athletic score type of stuff, and Cooper DeJean scored a remarkably high score on that. So I think he's going to be their guy. This one's also the same as last time. Seahawks taking Jackson Powers-Johnson. I mean, he is a great, phenomenal, one of the best prospects in the entire class. Him falling to 16, I think, is purely because of people overrating position value. The Seahawks need interior offensive linemen really badly. That was like their Achilles heel last year. That and sometimes the defense is just playing awful. But for their offense, that was their Achilles heel. They have the guys at the skill positions, but their interior offensive line was weak. And Jackson Powers-Johnson, he's one of the best interior offensive line prospects I've ever seen. Okay? So it would be pretty much a no-brainer to go ahead and take him if I'm Seattle, if he's on the board. Now, here's a very interesting one, right? The 49ers are going to trade away Brandon Aiyuk to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for the 17th overall pick. Very similar to the A.J. Brown deal. Very similar to the A.J. Brown deal. Just straight up a wide receiver that's trying to force his way out in order to get his extension in exchange for a first-round pick. Mid-first-round pick. Exactly the same as that A.J. Brown deal. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, Aiyuk went out and said he's not requesting a trade. Yeah, no, instead he's requesting a contract. I think the 49ers are the team that wants to trade him because they don't want to give him that contract. Yeah, they paid Debo last time around, but now they're paying Debo. Okay, which means they don't want to go ahead and pay another receiver. Instead, they rather trade that receiver away, get a first-round pick out of him, and then go ahead and address their big need on the offensive line, bringing in a Troy Fautanu. Okay? Jacksonville needs a wide receiver very badly. They need a wide receiver one very badly, and I know they might not be overly willing to pay another receiver, but I think when you see someone like Brandon Aiyuk, you're trying to compete right now, you're fine paying another guy because Aiyuk is a great player, and I think he's exactly what they thought Calvin Ridley was. I do. Okay? I see this as an opportunity for Jacksonville to really try and elevate themselves to that next level. Because Aiyuk is a great receiver. He might be a top 10 receiver in the league, and maybe he's even better than that. We haven't seen him as, the number one receiver with a great quarterback who just has a phenomenal arm and can do all that stuff at a ridiculously high level, okay? We haven't seen that yet. Now with Trevor Lawrence, we're going to be able to see that. He can be the key to the Jaguars becoming a very relevant team. Very similarly to how A.J. Brown was the key to the Eagles becoming a very relevant team. But from the 49ers perspective, I have them taking Troy Fautanu because they need offensive line help. They need it badly. Yeah, they could take a receiver, but now they have the other first-round pick in order to take a receiver. Okay, so they're probably going to go ahead and take a receiver with that next one. We'll get to that later, though. Troy Fautanu, he's a great zone blocker. Him falling to 17, this is great value. Fautanu is a great player. And last time I had him falling even further, which is crazy. Fautanu, he could play guard, he could play tackle. The 49ers need offensive linemen because right now it's Trent Williams and a bunch of bozos. Okay, that's part of the reason they lost the Super Bowl. Bringing in a Troy Fautanu who can zone block this well in a Shanahan scheme that heavily relies on inside zone, outside zone. They would love a guy like Fautanu, and his versatility gives him more opportunities to start on the offensive line. Slam dunk for them. And the Bengals are a team that also needs interior offensive line help. Fautanu, I think, was the better guy. Fuaga, though, he's no joke himself. He is no joke. He's a mauler, man. He is a mauler. And the Bengals like to have these big offensive linemen. Right now, they have Orlando Brown on one side, and on the other side, they have Trent Brown. Both of those two guys could get bounced after the season. At least one of them probably will. If one of those two is a huge liability, you can move Fuaga from interior offensive lineman to tackle. And if they both are very good, which I don't expect, but if both Trent Brown and Orlando Brown have a great season, then you keep Fuaga as an inside guy, and you have a pretty damn good offensive line. I mean, this is exactly the type of offensive lineman they like, and I think them bringing a swing tackle, especially a swing tackle of Fuanga's caliber, could only really benefit them. I really like this pick for them. And now, with Quinion Mitchell not going to the Colts, that means Quinion Mitchell is going to fall, okay? And with him falling, I think that the Los Angeles Rams are going to go ahead and take advantage, all right? They like to run a decent amount of zone coverage. Okay, they do. They're a team that runs a decent amount of zone coverage, and as a result of that, someone like Quinion Mitchell, who's great in zone coverage, can really, really excel. They have a new defensive coordinator. They need to bring in great defensive talent because last year Raheem Morris had a masterclass Okay? And, I mean, when you lose a defensive coordinator of Raheem Morris's caliber, you need to bring in more defensive talent. Because last year, that secondary wasn't overly talented. They were still successful because they had a very nice scheme. Now, they don't have that scheme. Now, they don't have Aaron Donald. They need to bring in new defensive talent, stud defensive talents. And Quinton Mitchell, I think, absolutely can be a stud. Okay, I think he might already be a stud. I mean, you look at his combine, it seems like he is. Okay, so I think Sean McVay, he's going to love this guy. And with Jacksonville trading their pick away, Terrion Arnold is just still going to be available at 20, which means the Steelers aren't going to trade back like I had them doing during that original mock draft. Terrion Arnold, I think, is a great scheme fit for a Steelers team that really likes to run physical press man coverage. Terrion Arnold is great at that. Terrion Arnold can play all forms of coverage, but I really like him as a physical man coverage corner. The Steelers love those type of guys now. That's their new style of defense. Joey Porter on one side and Terrion Arnold on the other. That'll be a superb defense. Now, I do think they should probably be investing more on offense because that was their problem last year. However, the Steelers like to build defense first, okay? They've always liked to be a more defensive team under Mike Tomlin, and giving him two very young, physical, high-caliber corners in Terrion Arnold and Joey Porter Jr. can only work well. I mean, they might find themselves 2-3 years down the line having one of the best defenses in the NFL because of how good that cornerback duo is going to be. And then TJ Watt trying to get to the quarterback. Oh, man. I could really see Mike Tomlin building one of the better defenses of the 2020s with guys like Arnold being, the key parts of that. 21st pick. We have Byron Murphy II, interior defensive lineman from Texas. They lost Christian Wilkins, and yes, Byron Murphy isn't very similar to Christian Wilkins, but he still is a hell of a force on the interior defensive line. Super excited to see what he could do wherever he goes. But I think Miami's a great landing spot for him because now, without Christian Wilkins, they need that dominant presence on the interior, and Byron Murphy can absolutely be that. His athleticism is absolutely insane, and you see it on film. I think Miami would love this guy. It's really that simple. They need interior defensive linemen. Byron Murphy is a great one. He's a one a lot of people are hyping up, and he's a guy with ridiculous athleticism. 22nd pick. Oh, my goodness. I think this is a huge mistake if they decide to do this, but I thought Philly was a great landing spot for Kool-Aid McKinstry last time I did this. And I talked to someone, a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and he's a co-host on my podcast, the Goal Line Podcast, on Spotify. I highly recommend you check it out. And I was talking with him, and he said, yeah, I think we should go Kool-Aid, but you look at Howie Roseman's draft history, don't get too optimistic. They're probably going to go with some interior offensive linemen or maybe even some more D-line depth. And that's how Howie Roseman builds his team. And while it really hurts me to say they're going to go offensive linemen, I really think that's going to be the route they take. And they're not even taking the best guy available. They're taking someone who could start right now and then swing out to tackle in the future when guys like Lane Johnson retire. Again, I don't think that's a smart approach. I think they're a team that should be trying to compete right now by bringing in a cornerback because the two cornerbacks that they started last year sucked, okay? And then the other cornerbacks that they brought in through the draft and through free agency also weren't very good. Eli Ricks was terrible. Kelly Ringo didn't do much. Darius Slay wasn't very good. They should be going corner, but I don't think they will. I really don't. You look at Howie Roseman's history. He loves bringing in those offensive linemen. He loves those trench dogs. And sadly, I think that's going to be their approach here. I think they're going to bring in Kingsley Suamataia. 23rd pick, we have the Patriots. This is a knockout. This right here is a knockout. Drafting A.D. Mitchell to be your wide receiver one for the future, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Bringing Olu Fashanu with the 11th pick and then A.D. Mitchell with the 23rd. That is a slam dunk first round in my mind. A.D. Mitchell, I think, what he shows as a receiver, he has such a complete skill set. He's fast while also being big. He's such a great route runner. He's so nuanced in his route running. A.D. Mitchell is a phenomenal player. Absolutely electrifying. I'm super excited to see what he does as a wide receiver one on the New England Patriots. I really hope this is what happens, and I hope that A.D. Mitchell can be a key part of maybe a Jacoby Brissett revenge tour right here. I think he could be a key part of that next era of Patriots football without Bill Belichick. And this is something I had going on last time. Amarius Mims going 24th overall to the Dallas Cowboys. They're very good at developing offensive linemen. I think Amarius Mims is going to fall because he doesn't have much playing experience. But when he did play, he was amazing. And his combine was ridiculous. He's a freak athlete. Cowboys can really do a lot with this guy. Super excited to see it if it were to occur. He might not fall this far, though. It's hard for me to understand how teams value this guy. Packers need interior offensive line help. And I think Jordan Morgan as a zone guy, this is someone who's great at blocking inside zone, blocking outside zone. Packers run a lot of that stuff. They're probably going to lean more towards this run-heavy approach now with Josh Jacobs on the team. Jordan Morgan can be a key guy as they approach that style of football. More smash mouth, more play action. Give Jordan Love his shots, but be a run-first team. I could absolutely see that. I think it'll work very well. Jordan Morgan can be a key part of that run-heavy approach. Last time I had the Buccaneers trading up to get Nate Wiggins. Now I just had him simply landing in their lap, is what I meant to say. Nate Wiggins is a great scheme fit. Todd Bowles, he likes to play man with a cushion. He doesn't like to run a high safety because he likes to blitz so much. And Nate Wiggins is someone with so much speed, it's difficult to get past him, even though he's going to be one-on-one. He doesn't need safety help, okay? He's very, very good at mirroring receivers. And Todd Bowles is someone who says, my corners need to cover. I don't care how well they could defend the run. And Wiggins is someone who could cover. He could cover damn well. Not a great tackler. But, man, he could cover. He could mirror receivers. You need someone to shut down Tyreek Hill. You got someone to shut down Tyreek Hill right here. Okay? As receivers get thinner and faster, corners need to get thinner and faster. I think Nate Wiggins is the leader in that movement. I think that Todd Bowles understands that. And I think he's going to go with Nate Wiggins right here. I think that's the pick for them. I think he's a great scheme fit. Cardinals, I have them landing on Laiatu Latu. This is a player who has some of the best handwork, some of the best pass rush moves that I've seen in a college football player in this class. Okay, very simple. What he shows and how refined he is as a pass rusher and how many moves he has in his bag as a pass rusher, it's phenomenal. He's a ridiculously good pass rusher. They like B.J. Ojulari. This guy is very similar to B.J. Ojulari. Having the two of them together, you have two technicians that are really good at getting to the quarterback. Yeah, they might get blown back a little bit against the run, but they're so good at disengaging, maybe they just never allow an offensive lineman to get their hands on him. What then? Because Laiatu Latu really is that good at winning hand fights, and if offensive linemen aren't getting his hands on him, he could still be a great run defender. So Latu is a guy that I really like, and I imagine Gannon really likes him too. He seems to like these types of players like Latu that have a refined game. It might not be the heaviest guys that could really set the edge overly well, but man, can they get to the quarterback. Bills, they need a wide receiver. Keon Coleman's on the board here. I'm not a big Keon Coleman guy. Some people are. He's someone who has a lot of upside. I think the Bills are going to bank on that upside, hoping this guy can be their wide receiver one in the future, someone who could really complement Josh Allen. Do I like this pick? No, not really. Do I think it can work? Absolutely. And I think Sean McDermott is someone that's willing to take that risk on this guy. Now I have a trade. This is something I had happening last time. The Raiders want their quarterback. And Michael Penix is still on the board. You trade up. Now you get the fifth-year option. You're guaranteed to get your guy. Okay, cool. Might not really benefit you right now, but he's someone that could benefit you down the line. Now, I don't know if they want to make this future investment with a new head coach that might not be sticking around, but I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't really shot down the possibility of doing this, and as a result, Antonio Pierce is using this as leverage to do exactly what I said Daboll would do. Bring in the quarterback, and now you say, I brought in a quarterback last year. You want to keep me around so you could see why I brought him in. Because he's probably not going to get much playing time this year. And it's interesting to bench a quarterback you're drafting in round one when he's as old as Penix is. However, quarterbacks last so long now, give him some time, let him sit on the bench for a year or half a year, and then eventually he either plays when he's ready or you wait a year and then he comes in, see what he could do then. This is a talented receiver core. This is a group that could help a quarterback get better. And if he needs to sit on the bench, he could sit on the bench. If he needs to play, he could definitely beat out Gardner Minshew. Very possible. I think them bringing Penix and getting that fifth-year option is very crucial. Super interested to see where Penix lands. I'm hoping that it's on Las Vegas. This is going to be the steal of the draft. If this were to actually occur, this would be the single best pick of the first round. Okay? Because the Ravens are a team that are already very good. They're already very good. But bringing in a Jared Verse to really step up their pass rush, their ability to get to the quarterback with just their front four, oh, man. Oh, man. And he's a ridiculous run defender, too. Oh, we lost Jadeveon Clowney. Oh, man, that sucks. Okay, Jared Verse. Go out there and absolutely decimate people. Go out there and show us why you're the reincarnation of Khalil Mack. Why you're the next Khalil Mack. Go ahead and show us that. Because what this guy can do as a run defender, what this guy could do as a pass rusher too, he is amazingly strong. Fascinatingly strong. He is so damn good. Bringing him to Baltimore. Okay, yeah, we lost Mike McDonald. All right, cool. We're a little bit less schematically advanced. Okay, yeah, that sucks. But we just brought in the best pass rusher we've had in a very long time. In a very long time. This could definitely happen. I was really hoping that it wouldn't happen as I went through this draft. I was trying to see. Verse definitely shouldn't be going to Baltimore, right? I got to pick 30. I was like, is this where Verse is going? And I looked. I reviewed like 3 times. Where else can Jared Verse go? And the way I had this board playing out, Jared Verse just ended up falling to the team that conveniently always has great players fall to them. And they're always in a great position to draft the best player available. Right now, the best player available is Jared Verse. And they need an edge rusher, too. They need a dominant edge rusher. Now, they don't need to draft someone, but they definitely aren't great in that area. They could stand to improve, and if Jared Verse is there at 30, they're going to stand and improve. They like these big run-defending edge rushers. Jared Verse fits that bill to a T. I said the 49ers are going to draft their wide receiver, and I said they're going to do it with the 31st pick. Ricky Pearsall, he's someone that might be a little bit more of a day 2 guy, but he's a great receiver in his own right. He definitely is. And I even had his pro comp as Brandon Ayuk because he's so great at adjusting to the ball, and he's such a great route runner. Very Brandon Ayuk-esque. I think the 49ers are just going to replace Ayuk with a cheaper Brandon Ayuk. I do. I mean, look at that grab he's making right there in that photo. He caught that ball, believe it or not. And that's the type of thing you see Brandon Ayuk do. And he's a great route runner, much like Brandon Ayuk. You traded Brandon Ayuk away because he costed too much. Now you get a cheaper Brandon Ayuk on a rookie deal. He might not be quite as good, but he has a very similar skill set. I absolutely love it. Pearsall is a receiver that I love. And then the Chiefs are going to take their own receiver in Xavier Legette. Physical, freak of nature. I would absolutely love for them to go with this. I mean, last time I had them going with Keon Coleman, I think they're going to go with their freak of nature receiver. I think he complements Rashee Rice very well. They're similar receivers, but not overly similar because they have their fair share of differences. They need receiver help without a doubt, especially with Kelsey only getting older and whatever is going on with Rashee Rice. I would be super interested to see them take this approach. So that's all I have for this mock draft. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did enjoy, leave a like. Feel free to subscribe if you want more content like this. I intend to post a little bit more film analysis during the off season. And if you want to listen to my opinions on the draft, I'm going to be voicing those during the week after the draft because I'm going to be on vacation the week of. So I highly recommend that you subscribe because I'm going to be doing like draft grades and stuff like that. But I'm also going to be going over the draft on my podcast, the Goal Line Podcast, the space goal, space line, space podcast. It's going to be in the description. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all again in the future.